I don't think I've ever really done a specific before video of this area, but I've got tons of these wild grapes coming in through here. I haven't decided what exactly I'm going to do with these because I might eventually end up digging them up and splicing them with more of a commercial grape variety to grow on the roots that they've developed. But yeah, I got this big bee balm and a big echinacea coming in down there. Can't see it super well, but I've just done some minimal cleanup in through here, and unfortunately I started pulling out these ash trees that are going to become some bean poles for me away from the garage, and I decided I'm going to put my black willow and my bamboo over and through here. So I just wanted to capture a quick before. Well, I was just sort of cleaning up this area next to the garage here, and I was kind of tripping a little bit because I was, pulling out the weeds over here. I went to go get started over here, and I got this vine. And so I was like, well, I gotta take a pause here because I might have a little bit of a poison ivy invasion up along my garage. But I had to look it up. And it says that poison ivy, that the leaves alternate. So these are directly across from each other. It seems like they may be box elder. However, I'm a little skeeved out because if you look at this, it's got this little curly vine tendril on it. And that don't seem like something. It said that box elder can initially grow as a vine. But look at that curly little vine thing. That seems like a little bit of a stretch for a tree to do. So I am just kind of, I don't know. We'll see. Well, so these vines, because they have the directly alternating leaves here, okay, on this part here, it's not poison ivy. And I think what it is that I think what must happen is the box elder trees, because it says they initially can grow as a vine when they're young, I think they're reaching out like vines because they're trying to find a place where there's good sun. And then I wonder if they set down another bunch of roots and then sprout upwards a trunk. I'm not really sure. However, I was looking into these, what's the downside of these, and people were talking about box elder bugs, which are these black and reddish orangey beetle things that I definitely do have a lot of on my property. I guess they also grow on maples and ash, which I also do have. But I was also looking, the wood, some of it, now I don't know if this is all of them grow like this or if it's just certain trees that'll end up with it, but some of them end up having this reddish streaks in the wood that is just super interesting to me. So I try to avoid tearing stuff out that's growing until I know what it is. So even though I'm going to finish cleaning this up and pop my bamboo in here for now, what's going to end up happening is I'm actually going to leave these box elders to go, most of them. I'm just going to clear out whatever little space I need for my bamboo right now. And then later on, I'm going to cut them back and dig them up, or I'll wait until fall. And I'm going to go replant them down closer to the creek by my woodlot because I need some trees over there anyways. And I wanted to get to a point where, because there's actually a lot of demand for outdoor products and stuff from city people that like to bring a little bit of nature into their homes, even just coasters or white birch branches. They're selling to boutiques to use to decoratively hang up clothing and stuff like that. So it's kind of surprising to me how much some of this stuff goes for. And I also wouldn't mind bringing some of it into my home, and I would like to have a little bit of a workshop, a wood shop setup going on, down the road quite a ways, another 5 years down the road once I get some other stuff under control. So I'm going to end up relocating these because even though I have box maple on my property, I am not sure that I have actually seen boxwoods on my property. So I'm going to get some new homes for these later. And that's also going to, unfortunately they're not real good for firewood because they're not super dense. But you can use them as a quick burning firewood, which frankly, during some parts of the year, like after winter into the spring, when I just need to bump some heat into my house with my wood stove without actually letting it go all night, sometimes the quick burning woods do work out okay for me. So I don't know, we'll see. These are gonna end up eventually getting rehomed, but I'm just gonna kind of let them go for now. Well, I've clearly still got a whole lot of work to do on this, and a lot of cleanup, because there is some weed clot down in here. I gotta either, I don't know, I'm gonna just have to pull all these out by the roots. Now, I did have some echinacea, and I have like some lilies coming in. I had planted 10 of these lilies, and I didn't have a whole lot up, but like I think this one is a smaller one that I need to clear the weeds around. I've got some like coneflower and echinacea, purple coneflower coming up, but like this one is all already withering, so I gotta get all this grass pulled up by the roots around this one too. And there's one with all the deadheads still on it. That's a bee balm. So even though some of this stuff has been trimmed a little bit, I still got a lot of actual removal that I need to do over here. And I'm not really so sure what's going to eventually go over there, since that area gets a little too much sun for my black pussy willow that I had considered putting in over there. So I did put in my hosta hybrids that I picked up over here, and a bunch of these. When I actually buy these, I look for the ones with multiple clumps, because usually you'll see in the pot some of them only have one clump. Now that I've watered this down, I need to actually go ahead and add more dirt over there after this. But these are basically the hosta hybrids that I bought. I did get one named variety that is going to end up somewhere else, and my bamboo is a little occupied. I'm basically going to be trying to keep the weeds kind of away from these, but keep this area not too sanitized, because if my chickens end up over here, then they'll end up super targeting my plants, and then I'll have to put them in cages. So we'll see how that goes, whether the chickens are going to be allowed over here or not. But even the little shorty fence I put up, they could jump anyways if they wanted to. So we'll see how it goes. It's still all kind of a mess, but since I'm already going to have to do some watering of some other things, I decided to go ahead and put those in. Now, I've been thinking more about this space. Later on, I gotta do some pruning of this really old tree, all the dead wood on it. It's a crab apple. I forget what it's called, but it's the purple kind. So when the leaves first come in, they're like a purplish color, and then the flowers are like this pink color, this deep pink color. But it's just a little crab apple tree. You can make jam out of these and that sort of thing. But anyways, I've been thinking more about this area. And I've avoided putting willows in this front area because they can spread and be weedy and things like that. And I definitely don't want them spreading up on the house. I already have problems with some other things. But I decided that, I haven't really had an invasiveness issue with my dappled willow so far. And so I decided to go ahead and put this black one over here. And then I've decided that I'm also going to take a cutting of my golden curls willow, and I'm going to pop it up by the road here, because I just have a feeling that it is going to look really nice in the wintertime when it gets big with that colored bark. And again, with the red dogwood, we do have some disease issues. So, for people who want a little bit of winter landscape interest, they might be interested. And again, I'm going to actually be setting up like a sales table up here and stuff. And when I have a plant like that, I want to get some cute little vintagey, not, too tacky signs, and it'll just say plants for sale. And then whatever I have up, I can put the price up so that people know exactly what it's going to cost them to get what they want before they stop. And I will eventually have up a website and stuff of what I have available, but I'm really looking to start with local sales on like Facebook Marketplace and literally just people that drive by. My goal eventually, when this area, is all weeded out and everything right now, but my goal eventually is that my frontage will just be so beautiful and dripping with abundance, and then people will see that I'm selling things and that it's affordable, and they'll just feel compelled to stop and drop a 20 or something on picking up some plants to bring home. I'm gonna even do a little because people sell firewood by the roadside and they have little self-pay boxes. So I'll be selective with how much I actually put out. But I'm gonna do a little self-pay box, and then I'll have to do the prices like this price plus this price equals this price, which will be what they pay in increments of 5. Because I have to add the taxes in. I have to put what they're paying in taxes separately, since I'm trying to do things above board within the bounds of the legal fiction. So then eventually I want to figure out how I can have people sort of barter work for products if they're a little bit too financially stretched and they want to build up an orchard or build up their gardens, but they don't have a whole lot of money to be dropping. And if it's under that $600 cap, I'm just eventually, once I have more of a business established, I want to figure out how I can, work with some people in the community who it would be easier for them to barter some labor for some products. So we'll see how it goes. Now, before I was going to start a plant nursery here, I eventually wanted to fill this out with just a couple rows of lavenders in my boxwoods and just add a little touch of roadside formality to what is kind of a bit of a wilding property. But I've decided today, I've decided that what I'm going to do, because again, so eventually these autumn olives, once I get to a point where I can actually do the cuttings myself, so I'm not paying through the nose to populate that area, I'm going to fill it with plums. That's what I decided. I'm going to replace those. So there's going to be plums just kind of down in the ditch. And people are like, but lady, people are going to rob your fruit. And we've been over this before. And people might rob a little bit of my fruit, but I just want to seed in that idea of thrivalism and abundance to people when they drive by. And I want to see, not only, do I actually really feel compelled by this fruit dripping from this tree, but I want that in my own yard. And I have the means to acquire that right here at this property that I've been driving by for a fair price. So that's kind of what I want to do. And I do have one blueberry bush that seems to have survived, and I eventually want to take cuttings. I got to see if it's a low bush. But what I'm going to do, because I don't want something that is too tall but is in the ditch and kind of visible, is I want to populate this whole area. There's a car coming, so I got to get away from the road here. But I want to just sort of populate this whole area with some low bush blueberries. And we do have some that grow wild and stuff out here. But I want to populate it with low bush blueberries. We have a lot of asparagus that grows wild by the roadside. But if I can get my giant asparagus to give me a bunch of good seeds this year, that I can start up a bunch of new giant asparagus plants, I'm going to put in some giant asparagus up through here. And then I'm going to put in a short orchard right next to these evergreens. And it's going to be like apricots or something. I'm going to try to do a naturally shorter tree. But when people drive by at different times of the year, I just want them to see it dripping with flowers and dripping with fruit and food. And, a lot of times I get called a troll by people for a whole number of different reasons. And the truth is that trolling is fun, and I love trolling. And it's kind of my own, my entire frontage is eventually going to be a massive, beautifully abundant, trolltastic advertisement to try to get people to come buy from me. And to, even if they're not buying from me, I want them to feel encouraged to be growing food on their property. So now, even a lot of people here, some of them have smaller lots, because we have a small number of big farming families that own a whole lot of the acreage out here. But the thing is I want people, even if they don't have 50 acres, to realize not only can they grow their own food and things more so on their own property, right, and build up that kind of self-reliance and that resiliency. I also want to introduce them to the idea that they can make money selling that stuff to other people. I'm not someone who wants to be a monopolist, For example, I think if somebody wanted to start up like a chestnut tree nursery close by, something like that, that would be pretty awesome. Because, just one person can't grow all the things. Anyways, I thought it was interesting because my hostas that I put in that were bought at the big box Walmart close by, well, I mean, not super close by, but it's a little bit of a drive, but those were grown by a nursery in Michigan, which is where I am in Michigan. So it's just a reminder that there are opportunities for nurseries. That gentleman that just drove by in his ATV looked a little bit like Santa Claus. But anyways, we get a lot of downstaters that come up through here, and a lot of people with vacation homes, and there's a lot of retirees and pensioners. And the harsh reality of my area is that a whole lot of people also don't make a whole lot of money. Not like a lot of other areas in the country. There's people who, were very poor, or even who had disabilities, things like that, that were sort of making ends meet by growing some illegal herb on the side and selling it legally. And the thing is that since that has been legalized in my county, there's a whole lot of poor people that used to do that as a little bit of an extra side hustle that are really struggling. I mean, the prices have, I don't buy this stuff, but I have read that the prices have really crashed on that. So even those folks, I want to understand they may not be able to make a ton of money in like a 10 foot by 10 foot space or whatever they're doing. But I do want them to think about, I do want them, if they drive by, to see that somebody else is selling something else that they grew on their property that is not a row crop, that is not just some pumpkins, and it is not like a marijuana or something like that. So, anyways, I've been kind of rambling on a little bit, but I've just been taking my time with this. I got some cleanup to do, and I've just really been trying to think about what I want to do with this space. And I really want to lean into the whole roadside advertisement type thing, because the thing is even the plants in the nursery, some of them they sell and they're very immature sizes. And I want people to be able to see not just what some of those plants actually look like in a more mature size in the landscape, but then me actually have them available to sell for those who are interested. Like, for example, this catalpa tree, it's just barely started to open the flowers. Let me see if I can actually get those. This tree is super weird. Okay. It's called a catalpa tree. It puts out all these almost tropical looking flowers that'll be covering it when these buds open up, these buds. Okay, and then what happens is, those dry up, and then it grows these big bean pods. And I've also been curious, like, can I roast these beans that this puts out? And, like, are they edible? I don't know. I got to look it up. But they dry up, and it drops these seeds. And even though it occasionally seeds some wild trees that I dig up and things like that, it's, like, a pretty interesting tree that you can't really usually buy at the nursery. So even that, eventually I might want to start propagating, because some people might see my tree and be like, wow, that's a weird kind of neat tree, and maybe they have space to put one. But it's generally the real old school, like, these are not typically trees that people today of like my generation, I'm a millennial, are planting anywhere. But this was a tree that like, my grandparents, if they lived in this area, might have planted, a catalpa tree. So I did have a situation, it looks all misshapen because I had a tornado that came through my area that picked up its tail just like across the way over there, like just very, very short way from my house. It started to pick up its tail, fortunately, but it had a massive, massive branch off the side that broke off at a 90-degree angle and almost took my front patio off with it. I got very lucky just by a few inches, and then my evergreen over there, I think it's a spruce, kind of rescued it because it kind of fell on there a little bit. But yeah, it's a little bit of a tough situation. So that's the other thing that I worry about sometimes is having trees close to my house. I'm thinking about getting that maple topped. You know, there's already a dead ash I had cut down because it was right by the road before I left, and I was like, oh no. With my luck, I just know if I leave that humongous dead ash, 70-foot dead ash there, well, I'm gone for an undetermined amount. It will probably fall on somebody's car. So I have to have that taken down. I had to have a whole bunch of them taken down. But anyways, I gotta go run some errands. I just, sorry for the long meander. Mostly, hopefully, when I get this actually done, this area kind of the way I want it to be. I also want to be able to look back at this and see where I started. Or similarly, I don't know whether or not I'll ever really get many, subscribers to my channel or not. But maybe one day if I do, and my property starts looking really nice, I want them to also be able to see kind of what I started with. And this was even my original start because I bought this house like 5 years ago now. So, but as far as my return, this is kind of what I started with, what I got going on. Also, I just want to say it's been a while now since I first got back into town, which is around the time I started this channel. And I haven't mowed this lawn once since then. So it was mowed before I arrived, and I haven't mowed it since. And because there was a shorter grass seeded up here that's not so crazy like the other grasses, and it's also a little drier up here, it's like the grass is totally like not growing to an unmanageable height. I mean, you can see like some of these grasses, even here just at this short height, they're putting up seed. So they're not these crazy, 6-foot tall grasses like I got back in the lot. And then these are just everywhere. These plantain flowers. I did find another bag of seed that I still had left from the last time I collected seed from these. Because I seeded more of these all over the place, these plantains. I'm going to do another video about these because people want to talk about like the zombie apocalypse and stuff like that. But, I'm a realist. I know that if the zombie apocalypse comes, even the food you got growing, even the crops you got growing, people might come steal. But they're not going to come steal your plantains, your plantaingo, which is edible. Okay? So it may not look like it, but I got my dandelions, my plantains, which, I wouldn't actually be eating a whole lot of that fresh because a lot of people don't know, different greens and things, they have oxalic acids and stuff, and what you need to lacto-ferment your food, even if just lightly. And then what that also does is it attracts microbes that are capable of breaking down like oxalic acids and things like that, and then it helps seed your gut microbiome with things that can actually break down the oxalic acids and stuff. And it pre-digests the fibrous greens just a little bit. But it's like, it may not look like it, but I have a lot of food just in my lawn right here. And even though I'm not in a position where I need to survive off of this, it's there for me if I need it. And in the meantime, it's just helping bring abundance for the bees. I've got so many different kinds of bees on my property. So, I don't know, some people can't get away with these kind of long, kind of unkempt situations in their little, micromanaged homeowners association areas and stuff. But, even this, these clovers, even so you can actually fry them up and eat them if you felt like it, but you can also make tea out of them. People don't know, you can make tea out of your peach leaves, tea out of your raspberry leaves, all sorts of stuff. There's a whole lot of ways to use the things growing on your property that you're not going to see in the grocery store. I put daylilies up through here if I needed to. See, most people don't know that daylilies are food. if I needed to dig up my daylilies and eat the roots, I could. Would I be wanting to live off of daylily roots? No, because that would probably give me a bad tummy ache. Okay. But there's all sorts of foods, and a lot of these things have medicinal value for you. So, on varying levels. So, anyways, I guess that's enough meandering for me right now. Oh yeah, the hostas. I mentioned it before, but the hostas, it's like the roots. I need to look and see if the greens are edible again, because I've never actually eaten a hosta yet. I do want to, but I'm also trying to propagate more, so maybe I'll get enough this year, this fall, to split off that I'll taste one and see what it tastes like. Taste some daylily root. But hostas, at least the roots, they're edible. So now, you got a plant that you can propagate and multiply on your property that can grow in the shade, that doesn't even need sun, and it's food. So I think it's just good for people to take kind of some different looks at resiliency and even think, how can I build that into my landscape in a way that is beautiful, so it's serving me and my mood and uplifting me every day that I'm looking at that beautiful plant, even as I just pull into the driveway. But then also you can eat it if you want to, and there's not a whole lot of people out there in the world smart enough to dig up your hostas for food if the zombie apocalypse comes. So anyways, you all, I'm not suggesting that the zombie apocalypse is coming, okay? But for those of you that are in that fear mentality, I just want you to know that even though I'm going to be the crazy lady planting fruit next to the road for people to come steal as they drive by when they think I'm not around to see, okay? That is going to be like a big magnet on my property. The whole resiliency and the thrivalism mentality and using organic growth, plants, to build that up with, well, not just plants, but also livestock like geese and ducks. Okay, I'm continuing to ramble, but what are the things that I did after I moved out here is because this area, so there used to be a dug well up here that they had to fill for safety reasons because it didn't have the right kind of cover on it. Okay, and they didn't want to put the right kind of cover, so they just filled it, which is fine. It just is what it is. It was super cute because it had the little post and like the roof over it. It was like a little stone well up above ground. It was super cute. I saw the photo on the street view, but they filled it in. Okay. Wow, I got super distracted. Oh yeah, sorry. But the one of the things that I did is I actually tilled through this area because what was happening is I was having so much water settle up in through here anyways. I decided that I would just embrace it. And so I actually tilled in through there and created a divot right in front of this daylily bed. So it's kind of a little bit of a rain garden, but what happens in that time of year where it's really wet is my ducks, well, I don't have any right now, but I'm going to get them again. My ducks love to do this thing where they slide around on their tummies and flap their legs and go through this big, massive puddle. Okay, it turns into like a little mini super shallow pond, and they love it. Okay, and people, when they drive by, they just like drive by and gawk, and like the kids, if they're in the car, they just love seeing my ducks right up here by the road, just like kind of pushing themselves through this little shallow puddle. So what I'm eventually gonna do is, because I can do up to 2 foot without needing a pond permit, okay? So I'm gonna try to avoid the man because I don't need to be paying somebody to draw up pond plans for me. I'm actually gonna go ahead and embrace this a little further and dig out some of this area in front of here to make it even a little bit deeper. And I'm gonna try to slope it so that I can still get the mower in there when I don't need to ever get the mower right here by this line, and the whole area behind that I'm going to populate to the point where I never need to get a mower between this and the evergreens. But in this forward area, I'm going to try to keep it sloped so that I can get my riding mower through there with no problems when I want to, but that in through here, closer to my little bed thing that I put in, there is going to be a channel that is deeper but a little bit shy of that 2 foot. So during certain times of the year, and eventually I'm going to have the runoff from the roof including what goes through my pond, is all gonna channel away from the house, because I do have a really old Michigan style basement, and I got some cracks and things and some water. When the water gets too close to the house, some of it ends up in the basement. I want to minimize that if I can. So I'm going to end up channeling all the water down through here, and it's going to go through this little pond thing. And now I got my black pussy willow over there. I'm going to have my golden curl willow over there. Now through here, I am going to have to dig a little bit, and then I have to call the internet place and figure out how deep this cable is that's up in here, because you can see they put a flag. So that is for an internet cable that comes down through here. So I gotta figure out how deep that is, so I can be super careful when I'm just hand digging this area. And then I'm gonna have from that area, it's gonna then drain into this ditch. And now remember, this ditch here don't accumulate a whole lot of water when even for most of the year. But then I am going to be putting the blueberries in there. So it's like, if I can't, or something that can take wet feet. Okay, so some of the wild blueberries that grow here, they grow in like marshy kind of conditions almost. So I'm going to see if the traditional low bush blueberry that has some of the bigger sized berries in the wild, if they can grow down through there. Which blueberries also look super beautiful in the fall, the plants. So anyways, this is just me on June 21st of 2023, setting some intentions, I suppose. And maybe one day it'll actually be impressive, and then people and myself will actually be able to see kind of where I started, semi-started. So anyways, I'm gonna go run some errands and clean up later, because it's kind of still a little bit hot out here, and I haven't actually eaten yet today, so I gotta eat here soon. I come out and I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna get a little bit done before I drink my coffee. And then I end up, this is the way to go in life, guys. I've discovered one of the secrets to success in life. Okay, and I'm a person who sometimes hasn't always been the most productive, because I get really exhausted with the Lyme and everything sometimes. My health isn't always perfect, but I've learned that when I try to set this new habit of making sure, committing to trying to do something very productive that needs to get done every morning before I even sit down for my coffee, right? And I'm trying to I had switched back over to the non-caffeinated Dandy Blend for a while, and I'm going to be switching back eventually. But I've had so much to do. I've been leaning on the coffee a little bit. I'm like, no, I'm going to get up. I'm going to do something productive. In this case, the kind of new thing is watering some of these plants that I planted. I'm going to start doing something productive before I ever even make my coffee. And since I use a French press while it's brewing, then I come back out and I do something productive before I sit down with my coffee. And what ends up happening is I get in such a mood to just get the stuff done, even if I'm not the fastest person, that I find that I end up I'm so preoccupied that I don't even really have an appetite for a while, because I'm just enjoying being outside working. And then it ends up being 3:30 in the afternoon, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I have not eaten yet. And maybe that's some of the extra weight that I put on over the past 4 years asking to be burned off. I'm not sure what it is, but it's interesting, because when I do that, make sure that I start my productivity before my coffee, I just my day goes so much better. Whereas when I don't do that, sometimes it ends up being hard just to get up. So anyways, maybe I'll make a video about that some other time, but enough of my rambling. Take it easy, y'all.